Unlike Mike Myers, who has evidence of like blood on him, Ghostface is always clean.
That's true.
You know, so this is something that for me, like logically, I was always like, wait, I don't understand. Wait.
They're like, don't ask questions.
Don't ask questions like that. Like, let's just make this costume.
Hello and welcome to the Art of Costume Blogcast. I'm Elizabeth Joy Glass.
And I'm a Gale Weathers fanboy, Spencer Williams. What's up, Elizabeth?
Oh, nothing much, Spencer. You are a Gale Weathers fanboy. Oh my goodness.
Happy spooky season officially. This is our first episode where we've recorded and it's actually spooky season.
I know. It's so exciting. I've actually been watching like spooky movies. I'm getting ready to come visit you, even though probably when this is released, I will have just left California.
Oh, yeah.
So I hope we had a good time.
Oh, I'm sure we did.
Florence killed it.
Florence and the Machine killed it. We probably went to the Academy Museum.
Brilliant.
Like some Aiko Ishioka content. Maybe we saw a couple movies. I don't know. We had a good time.
We probably did. We
definitely did not go to Halloween Horror Nights. We were too busy.
You know, we've yet to set our itinerary, Spencer. But no, other than that, things are going good. How about you?
Good. I feel good. I feel alive. This is our season. I'm so glad it's finally fall. I mean, it's still a little warm out for my taste, but I kind of feel like, you know, it's getting a little bit darker outside a little bit earlier. So I feel like it's coming. You know?
I put the heat on today, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, that's a bit extreme.
I know. And I'm like probably the only person on the East Coast who put their heat on today. But I was like, 60 degrees is too cold.
Like, that sounds like an Elizabeth thing, not a world thing.
Well, it was like 60 something inside, and then it was like 50 degrees outside. And I was like, no.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I have every fan on still. But I have been turning the AC off at night, though, so that's a sign.
Oh, nice.
It's like Groundhog Day, you know? When the AC starts to go off less and less, you're like, all right, it's coming.
My cat's cuddling with me way more. She's like, hey, this is ridiculous.
But we also, Elizabeth, I am so excited. We actually got a little bit of a spooky surprise this season.
Spencer, I cannot tell you how excited I was when the very first person to use our voicemail box, everybody, our voicemail box is lit. You want to know how I know it's lit? Aggie Gerard Rogers, the costume designer of Beetlejuice, was our very first call-in to the mailbox.
Like, we're getting to a point where we're like, okay, maybe people don't want to leave us voicemails. We haven't, you know, it's kind of like a dusty, cobwebby voicemail box. And then suddenly I'm just out and about and I get this notification. It's like, Aggie Rogers has left you a voicemail. I was like, what? Elizabeth, would you like to hear it?
I would love to hear it. You've been withholding this from me.
I've been sharing it for this very moment. Let me play it.
I just wanted to tell you guys that, anyway, this is Aggie. Your podcast is pretty cute. Thank you. The orange outfit that Catherine wears in the kitchen is actually the father's sweater worn upside down. So she steps into the arms and then pulls it up like a skirt. And then we put a belt on. And we figured that out in the store in LA early on. So that was definitely a look I wanted to use. It was so funny. So that's something that you can have.
Oh my gosh, that was a sweater. That's incredible.
I'm trying to remember back, and that never dawned to me. And I even got another like text message where Aggie was like, I can't believe no one's noticed the sweater. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know how. I've seen Beetlejuice 2 million times.
Yeah.
And it's never
I feel the need. We need to put like a PSA out on like the TikTok, on our Instagram. We need to be like, everybody, we missed this for like 30 years.
Right. But wait, there's more.
I enjoyed your little podcast today about Beetlejuice. I did leave you a little voice message on the website because it kind of led me to that. And then I listened to the very end of the blog and found this number. So I'm glad you didn't answer. Thank you. And please don't call me back. But anyway, it was fun. All the stuff that you guys like so much. One thing you might really like is the black and white stripe fabric. We could not find a stripe like that out there in the manufacturer land. So the costume shop made its own black and white stripe. So they sewed white fabric onto black fabric, onto white fabric, onto black fabric. And we had a great costume shop. And I had a short deal on that movie, and so I didn't stay through the end. So the costume shop and the supervisors had to get going on a lot of stuff on their own. And they were very talented, and they did a good job. I'm so lucky that you guys love it so much. I did run into Tim like 3 or 4 years ago in London, and that was thrilling for me. I hadn't seen him in years, and he came around the corner at some fancy thing, and he knew right who I was. So sometimes people forget. So anyway, I loved your comments, too, about it couldn't have been a Colleen Atwood movie. Yeah, we're just very different. Anyway, I'm grateful that I had the first 2. They were the most fun, I think. Okay, take care. Keep going. You guys sound like you have a good time. Okay, carry on. Bye-bye.
I love her. So sweet.
Oh my gosh. I don't know.
That's amazing.
It's just very emotional I don't know. I grew up watching Beetlejuice, and you and I love this podcast so much. So having Aggie call in, that was special.
Amazing.
I'm not going to lie, getting emotional, but
yeah,
cool.
I never we make these, and unless we're having an interview, I don't really expect the costume designers to necessarily see that we're putting out this episode about their work. So to know, however she came across it and that she appreciated it, I love that.
Yeah, she follows us on Instagram. I didn't know because her Instagram username is not her name, and nowhere on her Instagram does it say Aggie Rogers. And this account has been following us and liking our stuff forever.
Yeah.
So then when she messaged me, I was like, Aggie, is that you? It was the funniest thing.
Oh, that was so sweet. I love the tidbits that she gave us, the behind the wardrobe facts. Oh my gosh, I never would have guessed any of them. That's right. Incredible.
I can't believe it was hard to find black and white fabric like that stripes. You would think that'd be something that's like a every Joann's fabric, but she put black and white on the map.
She did. Oh, Aggie, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It really means the world to us. That's so cool. And don't worry, next year we'll be doing Pee-wee's Big Adventure, so stay tuned.
Yeah, Spencer is insistent, so we will definitely be doing that.
When she said the first 2, Tim Burton films, I'm thinking she's talking about Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I think that's the other one.
I think so too.
With that, Elizabeth, we have an amazing episode. What did we watch this week?
We watched Scream 2022, Spencer.
Oh, so excited. This is one of the spookiest movies ever, the Scream franchise. It's one of my absolute favorites. I watch Scream year round, so I don't need a holiday to watch it. But in terms of the podcast, now is the time. But this time, we're not going quite yet to the 90s. Maybe next year. We'll get there eventually, but we're starting with the 2022 version.
We are. So, Spencer, why don't you give us a little summary for this legacy film?
Will do. 25 years after a streak of brutal murders shocked the quiet town of Woodsboro, California, a new killer dons the Ghostface mask and begins targeting a group of teenagers to resurrect secrets from the town's deadly past. And that is the 2022 film Scream.
That's so exciting. I'm not the biggest fan of horror. You really got me into horror. You were like the first. You probably don't know that because I like really did not watch horror films till college.
That's a proud achievement.
Yeah. And I didn't watch the first Scream till last year when I was doing the Designing Horror series. So I've seen like clips from like some of the other movies.
Right.
I've never watched all of them through. So for me, it's really like Scream and now the new one.
Right.
So it was a very direct correlation for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it was so fun.
Right. Yeah. Screams 2, 3, and 4 are good. I love those movies. But for someone who's never seen them, it totally makes sense for you to go from the first Scream to the last Scream because everything in between is just the huge, just lots of killing. Poor Neve Campbell, Sidney Prescott. She just goes through the same shit, different year.
She goes through it.
Courtney Cox has an interesting haircut in one of them, so she also has her own fair share of troubles.
And what I love about this new one is you don't really have to watch the ones in between because the way they directly talk about it in the film with these quote unquote stab movies. They're like, right. Oh yeah, like people love this so much that they just say it bluntly like every couple years in Woodsboro, like so there's a spree of murders and then it gets made into a movie. Right.
How do you live in this town at this point? Same with like Haddonfield also. Like people there's other towns to live in.
But anyway, so exciting. Let's go behind the wardrobe so we can talk about this. We have directors Matt Bettinelli-Oplin and Tyler Gillett. And we have costume designer Emily Gunshor. Her notable work is Benders, The Last OG, Halloween, Stargirl, and Halloween Kills. Her current work is 13 the Musical and Halloween Ends. Spencer, I think you have a surprise for us.
I do. Emily Gunshor has been following us for a little while, vice versa. I am a huge fan. And, we just figured it's the season, spooky season. Who better to go to than the horror queen herself? Emily Gunshor is here in the studio with us today.
Yes!
Welcome to the podcast, Emily.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
We're so excited to meet you. I feel like I've been stalking your work for a couple years now, and it's about time, and it's perfect timing, our Halloween episode. So we're so happy to have you.
Thanks. Yeah. I'm excited to talk all things Halloween with you.
Right. But before we get into the spookiness of it all, because I will admit we just, binge Scream and Halloween. So it's been a creepy couple of days over here. So I want to start with something a little bit more joyous. On Netflix currently, you have a new film, 13 the Musical. It's so fun. It's about a boy who transitions from New York City to Indiana and really wants to celebrate his bar mitzvah. It was so fun. It was so joyous. The songs are stuck in my head. How did this come about?
Yeah, so I worked with Tamara Davis, the director of 13 on Stargirl in 2019, which is a show for DC. And
a good one.
Really, yeah, we just totally hit it off. And she told me about this project. I grew up as a ballerina and a dancer in my early life. My first career was as a ballerina. So I've always had an affinity for musicals and theater and dance. And she told me she was going to be doing this movie. And I was just like, I have to be a part of this. This is so cool. I also happen to be Jewish, and I had a bat mitzvah. So I was really just excited. Horror has kind of been something that I've been doing for the past couple of years, but I have 2 children, and being involved in a musical dance teenage project was just really exciting for me. So that's how it happened. And yeah, it was total opposite. I mean, not always opposite, making, still creating kids clothing and character development and all of that, but different color palette, not so many multiples for blood, and right. Only multiples for kids growing.
I was thinking about that as I was watching it. I was like, this is so different. But I'm like, but is it though? I mean, it's still a lot of the same processes, maybe just without all the multiple buckets of blood. It's still a dance, so much fun. So colorful.
Yeah, so many times like in making this and like creating friend groups and the stereotypical like types of kids within a dynamic of a school or a group of friends even, I thought back to like Scream or even Halloween when, there are these groups of kids, and it's very life repeats itself in a circular way. So, these kids were middle schoolers, but they're all, they need to be friends and have clothing and details of their interests that tie them together, but they also need to be like individuals. So that's the fun part of costuming them all for me.
So much fun. Everyone who's listening, you have to go to Netflix and watch 13 Musical. It's on right now. I watched it last night and I had so much fun. Put me in such a good mood before we went back to watching Scream and Halloween.
Yeah, it's definitely lighthearted.
So now let's talk about Scream. Emily, I am so excited. First, I have to ask, in Scream fashion, are you a horror fan, and what is your favorite scary movie?
So, funnily enough, before I met David Gordon Green to do Halloween, I was not a horror fan at all. Like, don't be scared, don't like scary movies. And, obviously love David Gordon Green and all of his work and was like, he's iconic. I want to do this. Love the idea of rebooting a franchise and getting really into the research of the history of these characters over years. And David said to me, wait, you don't like horror movies? I was like, no, not at all. And he laughed and said, this is going to be really fun. Yeah. And then he proceeded to give me lists and lists of his favorite horror movies. And now I love horror movies. I love them all. Like, I listen to horror podcasts. I listen to like all the scary things. So I don't necessarily have a favorite horror movie because I tend to like old horror movies.
Right.
But I get scared really easily.
No, I feel that. I was in your shoes probably up until college. That's when things started getting dark over here.
Now I like to watch horror films in the morning, like 6 a.m. I don't have to go to sleep afterwards.
Yeah, that's me. That's definitely me.
Yeah, that sounds like Elizabeth. I was texting Elizabeth like late at last night. I was like, "Are you watching Scream right now?" She's like, "No, it's late." Like, what?
But the fun part about Scream is that like Scream is scary, but it's not like as scary and gory because you can still pull there's a level of camp to it.
Yeah,
that you're like shaking and sweating, but you're also like kind of laughing. Like, obviously, don't answer the phone right now.
Scream definitely it's a huge franchise, and you're now part of this like really long legacy. How did you feel when you first found out you got this project, especially not starting out as a fan of horror?
Yeah. So I was like super excited to work with the Radio Silence guys because they had done the movie Ready or Not. And I loved that movie and the gore that went through it and their camera angles were super artistic. So I was really excited to get into Scream with them. I also part of rebooting a franchise that's so exciting is that you get to like go back and watch the other ones and then pick things that you want to carry on or you don't want to carry on. So that part was really fascinating for me. And then also considering like Neve's character, like it's been however many years since we saw her last and trying to figure out like what makes her tick now and where she is and how the psychology of all the chaos that she's been through has made her the person she is now and how we show that through clothing.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Scream really fans fun. Over here.
And same with Courtney. I mean, we basically went through for each of like the iconic characters and, you start with the research. It's the same on any project, whether it's period or modern, when you're doing like these legacy things, you got to watch all the other ones and then consider the choices that were made there. So it's almost like you have this connection to the designers that came before you, you know, because you need to like channel their energy and their creativity and then change it and make it your own.
Right, exactly. You're like looking to the past, paying tribute to what's come before, but then also revitalizing it to make it your own and leave your own mark on the legacy, which I think you did such an amazing job. And you really see it in some of the different characters, which we'll get into.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was really fun.
In true Scream fashion, the film opens with a pretty gruesome phone call scene. I definitely saw what you're doing with the costume. Tara, played by Jenna Ortega. I particularly love this first look because it has that cozy sweater feel that we remember on Drew Barrymore.
Yep.
But feels more modern and contemporary. She's a 2022 girl who's probably on TikTok and texting. And so like I totally saw the transition here. How was there a process behind this particular look?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it 100%. It was Drew Barrymore in the sweater with the phone, and it was this sweet moment, and you want the audience to feel like she's just this sweet, naive young girl who's up to no good, and there she is. You want to be able to see the blood as it comes on. So you want a color that is light enough to reflect that, but then also dark enough to hide the packs, which, you know, there were some moments in this where we saw shadowing of my packs. I saw it myself.
No.
But yeah, you know, you really embrace the feeling of who this girl is. She's a modern 2020, whatever year
around there.
kind of high schooler. Yeah, you did it. Soft and snuggly, but also still flattering, and girly, but not too girly, you know, all the things.
It was so fun. It's always one of my favorite scenes, just the first 10 minutes. And I left the pink on her too, because it just feels very Jenna Ortega to me, the soft pink.
Totally. It feels like so sweet and natural for her.
Oh, so sad.
We also get to meet, I think this was my favorite part of this movie, was meeting all the new Woodsboro teenagers. Obviously, things are grim for them, but they have a pretty modern sense of style, but it also feels like thrifted. How did you decide like the feel and the vibe for each of these characters?
Yeah, so each one of them, you know, it's about digging into their backstory a little bit, and like coming up with what type of kid they are to be collective. And definitely the actors have some, you know, semblance of who that is and who they feel comfortable being. But, you know, for like Wesley, he's more the artsy type. His family was connected. You know, his mom's the sheriff. So we wanted to make him like not militaristic, because then it would be opposite. You know, kids are kind of opposing of their mothers.
Right.
And Amber, you know, I kind of wanted to set the tone straight off that Amber was like this tough chick, you know, that she's kind of badass. They all together, you can see how they would be friends, how they would like come together, but then they each have their own different personalities. And the siblings, Chad, you know, he's on the football team. He's like the jock. He's so cool. So, you know, trying to find the like one little thing that puts them in the space. Liv, actually, I was kind of inspired for her character by one of the kids in Scream. I think it was the second Scream, the girl who dies in the roll gate because she also dies at the end.
Right.
So she's in that little skirt. In one of the other Screams, one of the teens died and got wrapped up in the gate of the garage. Yeah. And she was kind of that like mean girl vibe with the skirts. So I wanted to push her into that character.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so
that was Rose McGowan, I believe.
Exactly. It was exactly Rose McGowan. That's it. Yeah. Yeah, just trying to find something about each one of them that kind of gave them their thing, their heartbeat, you know?
Right. Oh, it's so fun. And I just love like the nerdy influence on the twins also being oh my gosh, I remembered they were like nieces or nephews of the one character who passed away. So there's like a legacy with each of these characters as well.
Exactly, because their mom, what was the name? Their mom was also the sister. Like she was also a legacy character, and she comes just for that one moment. And she's kind of also the Meekers. She's kind of got like a little bit of dorkiness, like, but what dorkiness now is in 2021 is so different than what it was in the 90s. So it's cool, so it's like giving them each their character.
Being nerds is cool now.
Totally.
We know it.
One character that is definitely different from the 90s is Dewey. And it was so good to see him in this new one. What was your kind of evolution for him?
Yeah, so David is amazing, and all we've ever seen Dewey and any Screams is in this uniform. We've never seen him in anything else. So it was like, wow, the world's our oyster. Like, what do we do with this man?
Oh, yeah, I never noticed that, actually, now that I think of it.
So something that was really important to me was that we try to keep his color palette similar to the uniform. I mean, it's more of a khaki than a tan per se, but like in that realm. And then also for him to be like the off duty, like he's really in a depressed, disheveled state. He's living in that trailer home. So just thinking about like this guy, he does not care about what he wears. He's wearing the same thing every day. And yeah, he's kind of a sad Dewey. We love Dewey.
Oh, it makes me so sad. That was the hardest part of this film, actually, was seeing like disheveled Dewey. Not watching the teenagers get murdered. It was Dewey's sad outfits and his sad life.
Totally. And like the more we discussed him, like we kept putting more dirt and sadder. And then it was like, oh, let him get wrinklier. It's not even reading, it's like you wanted to feel sad for him and then feel really, really sad and mad at the series when he hits his demise because, somebody had to die, but why him?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, he would have been my pick too, but still, it is very sad. That was
the saddest death for me. That it really was.
I could not give up Neve or Courtney Cox. It was just not in question. So.
I mean, it was a sad day. Like the day we shot his death on set, people were sad. Like even just us making the scene, it was so emotional, I think. Yeah.
I can't imagine. I would be a mess.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but David was just like he was so fun and such a team player.
Well, talk about somebody who got an update. Ghostface themselves from 1996. It just is such an iconic look, but you really managed to update it. How did you approach that?
Yeah, so I started with a lot of research again on the original shape, and we were, the mask has to be the same. There's no changing the mask. It's like, and we had a lot of discussions, the Radio Silence directors and I, and the Chad Keith, the production designer, just about like what was happening with the mask. And no questions, the mask was staying the same. There was no age to it. It wasn't going to get older. This is still supposed to be this costume that. Oh, interesting. There's so many questions in Scream. Like, right. How do these two people, like Jack Quaid is like 6'3" and Amber is like 5'11" or 5'6" or 5'4" or something so tiny, but like yet they're in the same Ghostface costume or they're wearing it. Like from a practical sense, it's like. This is movie magic. So
somehow I still always never know until the very end. Somehow it still always works.
Yeah. And Ghostface is in all of these fights and does all these killings. But unlike Mike Myers, who has evidence of like blood on him, Ghostface is always clean. There's no bullet holes or, so this is something that for me, like logically, I was always like, wait, I don't understand. Wait.
They're like, don't ask questions.
Don't ask questions like that. Let's just make this costume. So anyways, we started with the robe and the cape. I had a really clear vision as far as like movement of what I wanted, how I wanted it to move. And I did a couple quick little renderings, and we wanted to kind of recreate the robe to be the iconic 1996 one, which was the original. And this fabric actually had a Lurex sparkle in it. And there's like super fans out there, and somebody sent me a swatch of the original fabric in my research.
What?
Yeah, which is like, there's this super fan, and he has all the information. He has all the answers. Anyway,
wow.
swatch of the original one where I was able to kind of feel it and see the Lurex. And then we started searching for our fabric and what we were going to make it in, and ultimately decided that the sparkle needs to be there, but not always, and not necessarily as much as the 96 one. So I picked a fabric that had a slightly more drape, heavier weight than the 96 fabric, had a little bit more bounce to it, a little bit more movement. And then my amazing Adrian Dyer, who has actually been with me for all of the Halloweens, also was with me on this, and she is brilliant, April. And
shout out to April.
Yes, definitely. April's genius. So we played with actually adding the sparkle on top of the fabric as a spray coat. And then we were able to control the amount of sparkle. So we actually had a robe that was slightly like, we had a robe for outside lighting and a robe for inside lighting.
Oh, wow.
That's so interesting.
More sparkle versus less sparkle.
Right.
We actually also had a mask. So the masks come from the guy in New Jersey who owns the rights to the original masks.
Yeah.
Like they come
interesting.
from the manufacturer. So we don't get to make them, unlike also a difference from Halloween. But these masks,
they're like, here's your mask. You will use
like,
these.
Here's the mask. And we're like, great, we need 20 of them. And they're like, okay, here's 20 of them. And then they were all slightly different. So then we had to lay them all out and make them all identical, you know, with the shading. Like they just had like little packaging made in China marks or whatever. And then we also played with the openness of the mouth. So we had a matte one and we had a shiny one, again, to play with the lighting of where we were using it to pick up light or not pick up light.
Right. I love it so much because, you know, like remembering the original one, it felt very, to me, like you knew it was a high school student because it was kind of like thrown together. You could tell that they maybe went to Spirit Halloween store if it was around and like just kind of put this piece together. But in 2022, like we've had years of, you know, these Scream movies, the Stab movies, and these teenagers know exactly what they're doing, of course, like this generation. So the costume feels very sophisticated and like they've really, you know, Ghostface is really at the top of their game, I would say. So they have that expensive, good fabric, you know?
Yeah, it just had a really great feel to it. We like shredded the bottoms, you know? Yeah, it had great movement. Then the hood, like when you're making the hood of it, I had like, we basically had to build it out with some foam because it couldn't collapse on one side or not collapse on the other.
Oh.
Yeah.
Different types of boning and little bits of like foam trim in certain places to make it keep its shape.
Right. That's so cool. It was so scary. What also was scary was the jump scare I got when Billy Loomis appeared on my screen. Was not expecting that. People are going to be like, why are you talking about Billy Loomis? Because his costume is so interesting to me that you had to almost, not 100%, but kind of match the blood patterns on his shirt. It's not completely the same, but like who would expect it to be? But I see what you're doing there, and I thought that was so badass.
Yeah, it was kind of one of those, this was a very last minute thing. Actually, we had a fitting with Billy where we gave him a new costume. But then he had died. So it was, again, like one of these questions, and the filmmakers, we kind of went back and forth of like how they were going to put this into the film, because it's really just a vision. It's her seeing him. So is she remembering him as something else, like a photo she saw or a video she saw of him, or is she remembering this? And then we were going to do a clean white shirt. And I think that it was like the morning of that they were like, you know what, let's try and make him like it's dead, like he's back from the dead.
That's so cool.
And so we kind of scrambled to add the blood to be ish the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ish. Like I saw what you were doing and I was like, that's so cool. I could not wait to talk to you about it. It was perfect. It was short, sweet, and it just gave me everything I needed. So
yeah, because it's like all dried up and he's just there talking to her back from the dead. It's like such a
Not the worst kind of ghost to have around, obviously.
Man, but we found that shirt. It was the t-shirt and we needed multiples of them all of a sudden. And we were shooting this in the pandemic.
Right.
And I wanted to find a shirt with ribbing. It's always the things that you think are so easy to find that are so possible to find. We had to have them sent from Chicago, from all different
oh my gosh,
3 different stores, one in Chicago and one in LA. I just needed 3 of them, the same.
Right. Like, here's the 30 Ghostface mask you need, but we cannot find this one white rib t-shirt. That's so funny. Yeah. Okay, Emily, I'm so excited to talk to you about this next look. For as long as I can remember, I've been obsessed with that original Gale Weathers highlighter suit she wears.
Yeah.
So then we have this red look, and it just felt like such the perfect homage, but then also like it says so much about Gale's journey. You know, she's gone through this now multiple times, and Gale, Courtney Cox, has come out as a complete badass by this new film. So red to me just said a lot about, you know, she was there to do her reporting, but she knew right afterwards she's probably going to go murder Ghostface after this.
Totally. This was a decision that, like, as soon as I read the script and started watching, I had this vision of her in a red pantsuit for this scene. It was like one of those things, like sometimes you're like, this is the right thing. And sometimes you're like, oh, back and forth. So much so that I was sure about the red pantsuit. I mean, I did like research and presentations and pulled pictures of her other things. And there was lots of discussion, but like in my gut, I knew she needed to be in a red pantsuit for some reason. It just felt like the right color, the right choice. And, you know, we were, again, shooting this in the pandemic and she was in LA and I wasn't allowed to fly to LA because we couldn't get on planes. And so I had to shop her and prep the looks in North Carolina and then send stuff to her house and send somebody from LA who was local so that nobody was going on an airplane because COVID protocols.
Right.
So much so that I was like, it's going to be a red. I sent like 3 versions of red suits. And I was like, talked to Courtney on the phone and was like, are you into this? Like, are we sure everybody's into this? Because this is it. And yeah, it just like, it really embodied this, like, it embodied Gale Weathers. It embodied a person who has gone through so much and been this like gaudy 80s, bright colored kind of tacky newscaster to a woman who has moved to New York and become kind of sophisticated. But it seemed like the right collaboration of time periods to be a good choice.
Right. Oh, that's so good. Elizabeth, this is my one costume to rule them all from this film. It is just
pretty
so
much
good.
do that.
I was so excited. It's just so good. She looks amazing. I just love you, Courtney Cox, if you're listening. Anyways.
She's amazing. Yeah.
Now we have to talk about our leading lady, Neve Campbell, who plays Sidney Prescott. This was so exciting. She looks amazing as always. To me, this look, she's wearing like a leathery jacket. And I imagine this, you know, Sidney unfortunately has gone through this as well many, many times. When she showed up in this jacket, I was like, oh, she's wearing armor. She's definitely in the mood to battle Ghostface. She has to fly home and see her kids soon. She's not in the mood to play around. She wants this done in the next couple of hours.
Totally. I mean, that was it. It's like she really has one look in the movie that has to like say so many things. And yeah, it was like she needed to wear a jacket because this jacket, it was an Eero jacket. The color was like a deep burgundy. It just felt like, again, it was an accumulation of this young woman. And like I went through and screen grabbed all of her looks from each scream and kind of lined them up as an evolution.
Wow.
And think that now she's become a mom and she, you know, we see her running very briefly and she's just in a jogging outfit, but then she's leaving her children and she's coming back, as you said, to fight Ghostface. Like, she means business. She's wearing boots. She's tough, yet she's cool. And this is a color that we've actually seen her in past movies. The necklace, there was a necklace that she wore in maybe the third movie that was also like a gold round circular necklace. This is an updated version of it, but like similar style that she would hold on to. And yeah, she's just tough and she means business, ready to fight.
Right. Such a badass energy. I mean, she might as well showed up with like a sword and the Lord of the Rings armor. She was trying to get home in time for a Saturday Night Live or something. You know, she was ready.
She was ready.
Well, Emily, this has been so fun. I love Scream. I love what you did. The costumes were just so amazing. It perfectly paid homage, but then you gave it such your own twist that it felt so current and modern and relatable. And it was just like peak storytelling through costume design.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Emily, if you don't mind, we would also love to talk to you about some of your other films that are coming out. It's the spooky season. You're also the costume designer for Halloween and Halloween Kills.
Yes. Yes, I am.
So if you don't mind.
Kills, and then coming right now is Halloween Ends.
Right. I think by the time this is coming out, it might even be out. I'm not sure.
Cool. So.
Well, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk to Emily about Halloween and Halloween Kills.
Hi, this is Dan, audio engineer of the Blogcast, here to let you know that if you wanted to support the show, you can head over to theartofcostume.com/podstore. There you can buy some awesome TeePublic merch with the Blogcast logo. We have shirts, sweaters, coffee mugs, stickers, and of course, a baby onesie. Thank you for all of your support.
Spencer, that was such a good interview. I love the behind the wardrobe facts in that.
Yeah, and Emily is so cool. I'm obsessed with her. I want to hang out with her every single day. And like, I just feel like she has the coolest job in the world working on films like Scream and Halloween.
Yeah. Like all back to back. Incredible. Right. Just the content and the legacy she's working with, and then just the people she's gotten to work with. It's incredible.
Exactly. And we're so excited to say that the fun is not done yet. We'll be playing part 2 of our interview with Emily. We also discussed Halloween Kills, and just briefly Halloween Ends. All the Halloween goodness is coming up. And it was a super fun interview. I'm so excited for y'all to hear it. Come back this Thursday where we will play part 2.
Yes. And if you would like some extra content from us in between episodes, you can follow us on Instagram at the Art of Costume Pod, on TikTok at the Art of Costume. If you want a little extra bonus episode every month, you can become our costume maven and patron on patreon.com/the Art of Costume. If you need, it's spooky season. It's getting chilly. You need a sweatshirt, especially if you just kind of need to hide from a serial killer. What better than a Art of Costume sweatshirt from the artofcostume.com/pod store? And if you liked this interview or any of our other episodes, we would really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star text review on Apple Podcasts and or Spotify. Everybody, we will see you Thursday.
Also, if you want to leave a voicemail, just like our new best friend, Aggie Gerard Rogers, feel free to leave us a voicemail at 626-515-1826. We'd love to hear you and play your little clips on our episodes. Elizabeth, after our bonus episode on Thursday with Emily, let's talk about next week. For next week's episode, we are rounding out our spooky season with a spooky classic. I saw this movie way back in the day and it scared the shit out of me, and I haven't seen it since, but I love it. The costumes are brilliant. It's a fantasy genius masterpiece. We're watching Guillermo del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth. I am so excited.
Yes, everybody, get ready. Get ready. I'm so excited. So join us next Tuesday.
The Art of Costume Blogcast is hosted and produced by Elizabeth Joy Glass and Spencer Williams. Our audio engineering and editing is done by Dan White. Follow us on Instagram at The Art of Costume Pod, or visit the artofcostumeblogcast.com for all blogcast updates. If you want to support the show, go to theartofcostume.com/podstore. Or you can head over to patreon.com/theartofcostume for some bonus content. For more costume reviews, deep dives, and interviews, head over to theartofcostume.com, a blog dedicated to highlighting the best in costume design.
Hello and welcome to the Art of Costume Blogcast. I'm Elizabeth Joy Glass.
And oh my gosh, wait. I was trying to think of a cool intro, but I don't. I am, okay, do it again, sorry.